Hello faculty, this video is going to show you how to access grading rubrics for assignments and discussions, as they do look slightly different. So to get started, go to course menu and go to grades. The first one we're going to show is discussions. There's a new way to grade discussions, and I'm going to show you the easiest way to go about that with our new system. And this will ensure that you don't lose any of the feedback. So navigate to the discussion you'd like to grade in the grades area. For me, we have one right here. Now instead of going to the drop down and clicking grade all, we can now just click right here onto the assignment submission, and we'll have everything we need to grade the assignment. I'm going to drop this down so you can expand to keep it in your full screen, or you can keep it as is. But you'll notice at the top is the rubric that you can fill out and add feedback. To read the student's work, you'd scroll down and you can find all of their posts. The student made 3 posts for this particular assignment. One was an initial post and 2 were replies, which is indicated up here as well. You'll also notice that there's an overall general feedback area here. This is what the student will see next to their grade when they go to their grades. So they'll see the grade that they received, they'll see any note that you leave here, and then they'll see a link to access any feedback that you put in the rubric, as well as the scores they received on each rubric element. So the first step can either be to start with your rubric grading or to put in your overall comment. Once you're in this space, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. So you can select the performance level, add in a note, can do this for each of them, and for any ones that you'd like to add a note to, you can just write what you would like to write. You can continue on with that. There is a done button, but you don't have to click it in order to save it. And now we see that my entire score has totaled up down here. We see that it's out of 100, so we know I haven't missed anything. And now I can leave an overall feedback. I might write something like, "Student, thank you for your posts. Please see rubric feedback." Now you might like to give something that's a little bit more specific to this discussion and goes into a little bit more depth about what this discussion was all about and why it was valuable and some key takeaways. But for now, this is just a placeholder. Whatever I put here is what students are going to see next to their grade in their grade center. So let's say it's this student that got a perfect score, they have an A, they'll see their A, they'll see their actual point score, so in this case it's 40 out of 40, and then they'll see this note, and underneath that they'll see a button to access all of the feedback I put up here in the rubric, and they'll see each of the performance levels they got as well. So when I'm done with this, I'll have to go to the bottom of this. You might need to drag it up or increase it so you can reach this publish button, and then I would click publish. And that will save it to the students, and then you're done for this entire student. You don't have to do anything else. You've put feedback in the 2 areas that are required. The detailed feedback that we have, these placeholders here in each rubric element, and then a quick overall feedback that directs them back to the rubric for their personalized rubric element feedback. It's asking me to leave the page because I haven't published. I don't want to publish this since it's just a test. So I'm going to click leave page. So if I had saved that, the score would show up here, and it would look like these others that have been graded. Now to grade an assignment, there's 2 ways to go about it. This journal is an assignment, not a discussion. So I can come here and I can click on the assignment here, or I can go to here to the grade all. So that's one way to do it from here. There's another way to grade assignments. Now that's to go to the course menu assignments tab. If I come here, I can select the assignment that I want to grade. This is the same one we were just peeking at. And this allows me to see all the student submissions. A benefit of this space versus the grades area is that I can sort them by the date they were submitted. So if I want to grade the ones that were submitted first, grade them in that order, I can do so. Whereas the other space only allows me to grade in alphabetical or reverse alphabetical order. I can also see the Turnitin scores here. So before you grade, you might want to take a peek to see if anyone's is suspiciously high, and investigate the Turnitin report before you start your grading. So there are some benefits to coming to this space. And here, to grade a particular student work, you would go click on Evaluate. And now you're in the student submission. This is the same thing that will happen if you click the student submission icon from the grades area. Both bring you right here to this space. It just will have the students listed in a different order when you click on Next Student. So now I have a way to see the student's work. I can either download it or I can view it. It's up to you which one you prefer. Sometimes you do need to download the document. If it's a PowerPoint presentation that has notes attached, some Word documents you might want to download if you're looking for specific things. But otherwise, you can just view the document right here in the Brightspace Learning environment. And this is where you would read their work, and then you'd use the rubric to assess them. And this is that same type of general feedback area. Anything that you write here is what the student will see next to their grade that they receive when they go to their grades area. So if this student receives a B+, they'll see their B+, and they'll see the note that I leave here. And again, I can write just a brief note. Thank you for your work. Please see rubric. Again, this is quite brief. This is just a demonstration. You might want to go into a little bit more detail, but it can be the same for every student. This can be a generic comment that goes into a little bit about why this assignment was important, how it's useful for future assignments, but that could be the same for every student. You might just personalize it with their name, which I do highly recommend. And then the personalized feedback is going to go here in the rubric. So this is the rubric icon. And now I can grade them on each of the critical elements. So you can see that this rubric looks slightly different than the discussion board rubric. I select a proficiency level, and over here I click the pencil, and this is where I might put in my comment. So comment for this element. So it does look slightly different than what we had, and you do have to click save. Then slightly different than what we had for the discussion. You would go through that for each of these. I'm just going to put test here, test, and you have to click save. And do that for each of them. Leave my note here. Again, another test to see what it looks like. And those were all of the 3 elements. Now my overall score has been published, and I can click save and record. There's no need to unclick transfer rubric feedback to general feedback. We want to keep that on. Then I'm going to click save and record. I'm not quite done yet. You can see that the score has published. My notes. This is another difference between discussions and assignments. My notes from the rubric have put themselves under here. That was that little checkbox we saw. But the grade isn't available to students until I click publish. I can save a draft if I don't want them to see it yet, and I can click publish if it's ready for them to see. I'm going to click save draft because this was just a test for the student, not what I really want them to see. But if I were ready, I would click publish. So those are the 2 ways to go about grading. It looks different for discussions and assignments, which is why I wanted to show them separately. If you have any questions, please let your dean know.